First, let's talk about USC, then we'll talk about Miami. In the segment that I'm okay with the name I had on the other side of the break. Big brands trying to get back to what they were. So USC plays on College Game Day's premier matchup this week. They go to Oregon, and USC, make no mistake about it, controls their own path to the college football playoff. If they go 10-2 and they win at Oregon, I don't see how the committee could keep them out. I don't think they'd want to. I don't think they should. But Lincoln Riley just did something over the weekend that those who are on the anti-USC train that want to say things about what his teams have been in the past that maybe still have an image in their head of USC football, and it's one from the 22 and 23 seasons when he got there. They should have lost this game, right? Iowa led 21-10 at the half. Iowa ran for more yards. The rain started to come down. Boy, Lincoln Riley team should fold, right? Lincoln Riley teams shouldn't be able to match that level of physicality. Lincoln Riley teams shouldn't be able to do, I'm not sitting here telling you that they are elite just yet. I think the Illinois game proved that. I think the Notre Dame game proved that as well. There's still room to go. This is not a game that USC wins in the first 2 years of Lincoln Riley's tenure. They have made a concerted effort to get better in the trenches and to be more physical, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Rain or not, which first 2-year Lincoln Riley USC team, which week would give you any indication that they would be able to hold a good physical team like Iowa scoreless for 2 quarters? That's not something that happened. But it's something that happened on Saturday. And USC found a way to come back. And USC ran the ball just well enough. Wasn't an incredible day. We know Iowa is tough to run the football on. But King Miller wasn't the first option when the season began for USC. That's another thing that they've done, is figured out how to get back to running the ball with a certain level of success. But this was a statement sort of game, and now you have your marquee moment if you're Lincoln Riley and USC. The history between Oregon and USC, well documented. Going back to their time in the Pac-12, RIP. Oregon's been much better as a program for longer than USC fans would probably like to admit. But Oregon has won more conference championships in the last 10 years. Oregon has made more playoff appearances because they've made any playoff appearances. I don't think that this is a playoff or bust year for Lincoln Riley at USC. I think what you should have wanted to see this year, if you're a Trojan fan, is real tangible progress, and there has been that. This USC team is much better than last year, and after 2 seasons of going backwards, you needed to take a step forward, and this could be a big step forward. If they are able to go to Eugene and win, boy, that's a statement moment. That is a flag planting sort of we're back, going to the playoff, and who knows what the heck could happen with a Lincoln Riley team in the college football playoff if they are able to pull that off. But right now, for USC, what they have done this season should be commended. Don't forget how they're recruiting in the class of 2026, by the way. Had a number 1 class for a long time. I think that's faded. Still top 5 class, I believe, in the 2026 cycle. The Trojans are starting to look like the Trojans. Oregon is an opportunity this Saturday on the road to try to swing things back in their favor. USC, I don't think, has beaten Oregon in football. They haven't played every single year, so context is required there. I believe the last time was 2016, 17 or so. USC was in the Pac-12 South. Oregon was in the North, so they didn't play every single season. The last time the Trojans went there, they lost 36-27 back in 2023. So the opportunity is there. And for the Trojans coming into the season, I think you would have taken this. Is there something left on the table? Yep, that Illinois game, it stings right now because you could maybe lose to Oregon close this week and still have a reasonable shot at the playoff at the moment. But as it so happens, you don't have that situation and you just have to go out and find a way to win. But to get to where USC wants to go, they got to win these sorts of games at some point, right? Whether in the regular season or in a conference championship game or in the playoff, you're going to have to go and beat Oregon at some point. Here's your moment. This is a statement sort of game for USC. There was a statement made on Saturday in Los Angeles against the Hawkeyes because of the style in which they had to play and the perceived limitations. They can't do that. Well, they did that. That's one hurdle. Here's the next one. At Oregon on Saturday. So, highest of vibes game for USC on Saturday because they kept the playoff hopes alive and won that sort of game. For Iowa, I go bad vibes. You know, their playoff hopes went out the door when they lost to Oregon, and Iowa's just Iowa. They might wind up at 8-4. Could be a top 25 team at the end of the year. High floor, low ceiling, as long as Kirk Ferentz is in charge. Let's talk about Miami. So Miami, well, I can't use that particular phrase. 41-7 over NC State, who's not a great team, but I can't sit here and say is a terrible team because of the wins that they do have. But are they that good? No, they're really. But they beat Virginia. They beat Georgia Tech a couple weeks ago. I mean, they can flash, but Miami went out and looked like a team who was trying to make a point to a particular group of people. Yes, I'm talking about the committee, not their fans, not their donors, not themselves. No, they look like they were trying to make a point. 41-7, they led this game 24-0 at half, did not let up. Did not let up in the second half. So Miami's sitting there at 8-2 and ranked number 15. And in my top 25, I've got the Canes at 13th. They were 15th last week when the playoff rankings came out. They moved up 3 spots. Miami has a very real chance to go to the college football playoff. And the fact that I'm saying that is crazy, but I also think is kind of fair because that win over Notre Dame, boy, it's holding up really, really well. And it's why you should schedule those sorts of games. And it is the benefit, even though there's a downside. They go at Virginia Tech this week and then at Pitt last week of the regular season. And Pitt is an interesting team because, you know, they got beat pretty soundly by Notre Dame, but in Pat Narduzzi's own words, and he wasn't wrong, it didn't matter because they're 7-3, but they've got 1 loss in the ACC. So they play at Georgia Tech this week, and then they host Miami. Pitt is either going to be playing against Miami at home in the last week of the regular season for the chance to go to the ACC championship game and college football playoff, or they will be trying to play spoiler for the Hurricanes. But Miami at 10-2, they should again be rooting for Pitt to beat Georgia Tech so that win holds up, and whatever happened, Miami's not going to the ACC championship game in all likelihood. So they should want that Pitt win to be against an 8-win team instead of a 7-win team that's dropped 2 in a row once they started facing ranked opponents. That's not as good for Miami's resume. But the Hurricanes at 10-2 absolutely will have a shot. As I always say, and I will close with this message for today, help is often given to those in college football who hold their own. And if Miami wins their final 2 games and they're sitting there at 10-2 with, a bad couple of losses that could keep them out to unranked teams. Louisville losing, bad for Miami. SMU's loss to Baylor earlier this year is keeping SMU right now, in my view, and probably in the committees as well, out of the top 25. But if SMU were to go on a run and make their way to the ACC championship game, hey, that'd be great for Miami. Make their loss look a little bit more tenable, especially since it was on the road. But if you're 10-2 with losses to teams that are good but not great and not ranked, but a win over Notre Dame, who the committee has in the top 10, you're going to have a case. You're going to have a very serious case. And I'll leave you with this thought. Miami at 10-2 with a win over Notre Dame, or BYU at 10-2 with a win over Utah. I think I know where the committee's going on that front. I think they'll lean Hurricanes. Not that they should, but I think they will. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.